much, John, for those very kind and gracious remarks. Say it leaves me speechless, but I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. But I can see that Jay was listening, and he was truly one of my very valued staffers for a long time, as you indicated. And because of the work that my staff does, enables me to do the work that I do on behalf of the great state of Maine. So I truly appreciate what you have said here this evening. And I also want to join all of your colleagues and members of the Chamber community in saying welcome back to you, John, and to Wendy, as you reprise your role. You know, many of us know John, of course, as owner of Williams Broadcasting, but other Mainers know him as host of the WJB radio program In the Pits. I was just glad to learn that he was referring to a motorsports talk show, because that could easily describe the legislative process in Washington these days. Speaking of Washington, I want to thank my colleague, Congressman Michaud, for being here tonight. I want to, you know, Mike and I appreciate the old Will Rogers saying, the two worst things you want to watch being made are laws and sausages. But I thank you for being here, Mike. And of course, I'm delighted to have, to join me tonight is my husband, Jock. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to have dinner together. We really appreciate it. And you know, as you know, he's probably the only former governor in this room, but I think there are a number of people in this room who hope to be one day a former governor. So, you know, Jock and I used to say when we were both serving in public office that our quality time together was listening to one another's speeches. Now that I'm the one giving the speeches, John gets the short end of the stick. In any event, I don't think wedding vows covered that one. Dick Gleason, it's great to see you here tonight. You know, Dick and I are former classmates at the University of Maine. But that did not stop him from peppering me with the toughest questions every time I stopped by his radio program at the station at WOXO in Norway when I was taking those Main Street tours. And Dick obviously has gotten the bug, and he's now the newly inaugurated mayor of my hometown of Auburn, when our roots run deep. So I want to congratulate you, Dick and Kathy, and wish you well in this new chapter and phase of your life. And I want to thank you, Sue, for doing an extraordinary job as a board chair, and thank you for extending to me the privilege of addressing the chamber here this evening with this phenomenally successful dinner, and also for the invaluable contributions you've made with your marketing acumen and your knowledge of healthcare, which certainly could have used you this last year as we were working on healthcare. And John King, thank you too for allowing us to be here this evening at Hebron Academy. I'm very familiar with Hebron. Obviously, it's a crown jewel among educational institutions here in the state of Maine. But Hebron Academy, and of course the town of Hebron, were very much a part of my state senate district when I represented Auburn and the surrounding communities in the state senate. And fact is, when I was first running for that position, I well remember a very beloved, long-standing teacher here at Hebron Academy. His name was Harold E. Hall. And I paid a cold call to Harold, and I said, geez, could you introduce me to a few people in town? And you know, he's a very distinguished gentleman. He had a long top coat and a hat. He said, absolutely. Well, did he ever? He took me everywhere throughout Hebron. There wasn't a person he didn't introduce me to, nor a home that we didn't go to. He understood early on the value of grassroots organization, and I never forgot it. And so it was truly a memorable moment in my political career. Speaking of political careers, I just couldn't believe that John Williams had four decades. You must be talking about somebody else, if I recall. But I am delighted to be here this evening, most especially because all of you represent the legendary Maine work ethic and can-do spirit that certainly is alive and well here in Oxford County and among the chamber community. Just to listen to Sue's report is absolutely extraordinary. that you would have 400 members strong. You have attracted new companies. You've added new companies to your chamber membership of 60, as she indicated, throughout this last year. That kind of productivity and efficiency we should be replicating in Washington, and then we could be talking about something in terms of what we should be accomplishing in Washington without question. Sort of reminds me a few years ago when I held a federal conference on procurement in Maine, and a friend of mine received a notice, and she called me up and she said, Olympia, she said, I noticed that you're having this federal procurement conference in Maine. And I said, that's right. She said, you mean you're bringing business, you're bringing the federal government to Maine to give us the business? And I said, that's right. She said, well, what's new about that? Well, I know that the scariest words in the English language are, I'm from the federal government, I'm here to help you. I'm sure you can appreciate all of that when you hear that message. But the reality is, when it comes to all of you, you're the ones that are on the economic front lines of our communities, of our state, and of course our country. And the government and the federal Congress ought to be on your side. And that's what I would like to discuss with you here tonight. What is going on in Washington, what the agenda is, and most importantly, that we are going to jumpstart this economy to make sure that we are moving heaven and earth to create the kind of climate that is going to be conducive for you to take the calculated risk so that you can not only preserve jobs, but to create jobs. And we certainly know that we need to have those jobs. More than 25,000 Mainers have lost their jobs since the onset of the recession in December of 2007. More than 8 million people nationwide, which is the highest job loss of any recession since World War II. And if you think of the underemployed and the unemployed, you're talking about collectively of 23 million people across this country. Well, you know, we've heard the numbers have declined today in unemployment. We've learned that the economic growth numbers in the last quarter are the fastest paced at 2003. But that's a cold comfort to those who are looking and trying to secure a paycheck. A jobless recovery is simply not a true recovery. So it's no wonder that Mainers and Americans are incensed when we hear about the 22 Wall Street banks, the very same banks that the largest recipients of taxpayer-funded bailouts are slashing small business lending by more than $12 billion between April and October of 2009. These financial titans, are too big to fail, but never fail to give out the mega bonuses. And by the way, that egregious practice is something that Senator Wyden of Oregon and I tried to stop in the stimulus package, saying that any institution that was receiving financial assistance would not be able to issue bonuses. The point is here, just as we have the highest level of economic anxiety in our country, Washington is enshrouded in a supremely polarized political environment that has marginalized the legislative process and has certainly debilitated our ability to work across the lines to get things done on behalf of the American people. This was supposed to be a post-partisan era, and yet 93% of the American people believe the environment in Washington is too political and too partisan. And I couldn't agree more. It's something that I have fought throughout my political lifetime against. And so it's not surprising that we saw the results in our neighboring state of Massachusetts. It has been described as the shot heard around the political world because it was a manifestation of the deep disenchantment, the discontent, the disconnect that exists, yes, from Wall Street to Main Street, but from Washington and the rest of the country.